So dude, this video has actually been inspired by a song. I was working out, this was actually I think last summer, but I've done it again this summer. I like listening to Post Malone at certain times of the year, I don't know why. But I was listening to this song called Lemon Tree. Go and listen to it if you want to understand what I'm going to say in this video. And he was saying how life is pretty sweet, I'm told. Like people say, oh, life is sweet. And I think his experience is, he's out of luck. Like life is sour for him. And the thing is, man, I was listening to this as I was working out, and I was practicing retention and celibacy. And it struck me, man, wow. This song, Post Malone is saying, life is actually really sour. And yet my experience is extremely sweet. Like sweet is probably the perfect word. It's pleasant, rich, pure, and very sweet. This is how celibacy feels, man. And I would never have guessed that. I would have never guessed that celibacy feels like this, man. I would have, honestly, I would have thought celibacy was like really boring. Like monks have nothing better to do, so they just don't do anything. Celibacy is this boring, dry, cold, empty kind of state. But no, man, celibacy is so sweet. It's so rich. Life is so sweet on celibacy. Everything feels better. Everything is more pleasurable. Everything is more enjoyable. Working out feels literally pleasurable. So to be honest, man, I felt very sorry for Post Malone. Like genuinely, man, as a human being, I was like, oh crap. No one's going to tell him, hey man, go work on yourself, develop yourself spiritually, meditate a bunch, start awakening spiritual energy, start awakening Kundalini, start purifying your being. And then once you've done that, now you've set the foundation, go and practice celibacy. Go and get as pure as you can, spiritually speaking, energetically speaking. I was like, oh man, he's probably not going to do that because he's got too many people to fuck and too many great, cool rock star things to do, right? I would do that too, man, if I was him, most likely. And it made me think, man, holy shit. Celibacy makes your life extremely sweet. And I thought I'd tell you about it. Because, as I said, I just would not have expected this. I just really would not have expected this whatsoever. I think I mentioned it in a video or two ago. When you release, you don't feel like practicing retention, and you don't feel like, celibacy is like just way less attractive of an idea. And, we don't have the patience to build, to wait and let that build up, and so that we can feel the sweetness. No, man, like we don't really care in that moment. We want to have sex again, or we want to release again, or we want to use PMO again, like, of course. But when you start to have a little bit more success on this path, when you start breaking through a bit more, and having these little streaks, 4-day plus is a really good place to be, in my experience. And then imagine you do that and you continue to do it. And then again, you introduce celibacy. So celibacy meaning, an entire lifestyle and way of being internally where you are pure and without lust. Spiritually pure in particular. You will see that life is very sweet, man. And you almost can't believe it. And you certainly can't tell other people about it. Because no one gives a fuck. Ain't nobody give a fuck about celibacy, bro. People love sex, man. They don't care if it feels sour afterwards. They love the sex too much. Of course they do, man. Who doesn't? That's the thing, man. When you do this stuff, you become a very interesting person, because you start to get, joy and happiness and peace from this energy, from this not doing something. It's very interesting. So, man, I hope Post Malone is okay. Who knows, man? Maybe I'll speak to him about celibacy one day. Probably not, but you know what I mean. Notice this, man. Notice that your experience will be much sweeter, much richer with celibacy, with a lack of sexual release and a lack of energetic release as well. And if you retain, man, you know, I do like to make the distinction between retention and celibacy slightly, because retention is awesome, it's solid, it's strong. But celibacy is almost like a whole level where even in your mind, you don't think of sexual things at all. You try not to check that person out. You try and maintain a very spiritual, pure state. But at the same time, they're also kind of interchangeable. They're kind of synonymous. So, yeah, that's just my thinking on it. That's just how I personally experience it. Anyway, so what I was going to say there was, even just do retention. Just do retention. Because you will feel this as well. You know, admittedly, I think I've got a burp coming. No, it's gone. Admittedly, if you do retain, life doesn't automatically feel sweet. Like, I can remember the first few times I would retain. Oh, no, it's gone. When I would start retaining, man, it was really like heavy and tough and I just want to go and use PMO a bunch and all this. You know, that's okay. Keep going, man. Do this for years. Like, I don't mean in a row unless you're a crazy motherfucker, but do it for a long time and you will refine your state. Keep retaining, keep practicing, keep getting more pure, keep meditating, keep getting more spiritual, and then you will see, wow, retention is amazing, celibacy is amazing. These things, they make life sweet. They make life very, very sweet. And you can't convince people of this. This is not me convincing, this is me sharing because I know you probably understand. So there we go, man. That is it for me. Do remember this one. This is really interesting. Just keep contemplating it, keep trying to see it in your experience. It will show up at some point. It will. So good luck, my friend. And peace.